That I really agree with the park and the authorities is they named some of these facilities after some important rangers or scientists when they are alive. You know, it's a fair recognition when a person could see, you know, his or her name on a plate, not when it's 6 feet under, but when it's alive. That's important. So the Robinson Church stayed here for approximately 40 years, and since it's hard work, so they named this place Fausto Llerena. He still probably feeds the animals around, but not retiring yet. Okay, number one. So you need to, if you're in the wild, you need to protect the nesting areas. If you're not in the wild, in a captive center like this, so you actually, in this place, you have to protect the nest also because we have some influence with rats and some rodents. No. Number two. So soon after you see a female nesting, or perhaps you find a good nest, so they collect the eggs. Notice they put a little cross over here, a marker, because as soon as the embryo, and since they don't know how long these eggs have been buried there in the underground, so as soon as the embryo start developing it attaches to one of the walls on the shell. So if you move it, flip it, probably the weight of that embryo will cause a detachment, and then finally you ruin the thing, right? So it's important they keep the same position when they actually brush all the dirt out of this nest. So they just localize the neck and they transport it carefully. Now put a mark in there and they put it into a sort of, you know, kind of bucket or so. So they transport this to the breeding center where they collect data, especially mass, label, weight, in the condition of the egg, because if they find one that is cracked, so probably they would discard that one, right? So after that, so they transport this to artificial incubators. So this is, I think, an exaggeration because it is not like this, but it's similar. But it shows a bit of how was it first, or the beginning of this breeding center. Back in the 60s and 70s, there was no electricity in Galapagos. So Danny and myself, I think, were part of the last generation who enjoyed this, not having electricity power 24 hours a day. So we eventually ran out and escaped our homes at midnight. With friends, drink something like caña, and then going back and going next morning to school. Right? I did it. Very proud of that. So they used to adjust all the temperature. It should be homogeneous, which means the temperature you have here must be here, and every single egg. That's why they make this, confinement area. They cover with some plastic and everything. So, and they put about 6 to 10 eggs in each of these buckets, and they warm this whole environment with hair dryers. That's the nice way to keep a circulation of warm air. Just more or less to resemble or to reproduce what is happening in the nest. But this is more efficient. So naturally, it's no more than 20% of these little eggs will hatch in nature. But in here it's over 70%, which is, well, it's a nice push. So, and then this is the formula. To get to this point, I mean the successful incubation temperature to get a female and male, so they had to do a lot of research, not only trial and error, but just a lot of research. This is the first time they have done this to determine what is the exact right temperature to produce 99% of the times a male with 78, which is, could you do 78? It's 82, more or less, and this is 85, right? So in here, so they're not doing much of this because males are pretty much useless. We're not important, but this is important. You know why? Because yes, they lay eggs. These guys, they don't lay eggs, so it's not important. So they make more or less 80% of the whole batch. If you have, I don't know, 100 eggs in there, 80 of them will be hatching on as females. And if they're lucky, so 20% of them. But this has to be adjusted at this temperature. If not, you get a useless man. After that, so this is the beginning. Once they hatch, so they keep them more or less isolated, so it takes more or less a week for them to finally hatch. They have no really hard tissue on there, but except the caruncle, which is a big, because in the ancient times, these reptiles were, stronger, and so they developed this kind of caruncle, which it helps a lot to break this shell. And after that, so as you see here, so they have an open area, fragile area. This is why they can't be released soon after they hatch, because the bird, a mockingbird, could actually flip one of these tortoises over and I'll start picking this thing. This is a yolk, and it takes more or less a month, or probably 40 days, to finally seal the plastron. This is called a plastron, right? So as it consumes the yolk, it seals that portion, and then finally they will be somehow strong and hard enough. So, and this is the moment that finally they take them out of the confinement area, an isolated area, and they put it in a pincer, we'll see later. So they have to grow here for 1 or 2 years until they have the right size, in the right weight, and then finally Fausto is going to do the rest. And then anyway, they will be transported back to the islands they were originally from. In the case of Santa Cruz, they're easy. They go up in the highlands and they release them. But in case of the very remote islands like Española or perhaps in some, they have to go in helicopters or speedboats, bumpy speedboats.
All I can say is, while it is very hot, very humid, I love the Galapagos. It's been an absolutely amazing 7 days, but unfortunately, we are going to have to say adios, Galapagos. Hasta luego.